But this is what I do want to say. Some of you may know that I'm 78 years of age. I know this is a secret. We kind of keep it under the radar screen, but it has gotten out. So the point is, there is an advantage having been in politics for a long time. What's that advantage? The advantage is that the ideas that I am fighting for today, and I know you guys research this, these are not new ideas to me. I've been talking about healthcare as a human right and Medicare for all for decades. I've been talking about the need to raise the minimum wage to a living wage for decades. I've been on more picket lines, I suspect, than all of my opponents combined, because I am a son of the American working class. That's who I am, and standing with workers against the greed and corruption of large corporations, that's who I am. That's what I have done for decades. That is what I will do in the White House. So to me, the ideas that I am fighting for, without exception, these are not new ideas. I didn't hire some consultant to go out and say, hey, do a poll, tell me what ideas I should be speaking about. This is who I am. For better or worse, this is who I am. And I know sometimes the media says, oh, Bernie, you're so repetitious. You say the same thing. Well, that's my life. That's what I do. And if elected president, you will see me implement those ideas. Ideas, by the way, which should have been implemented a very long time ago.
Senator, I wanted to get your response to what Senator Joe Manchin said. And the choices between Trump and Sanders, I know for sure I'm not supporting Sanders. Bernie brings a lot to the table, but it's not practical from where I come from. Bernie, we can't even pay for Medicare for some. Now you want to expand it, and what happens?
Well, I would remind Joe Manchin of West Virginia to take a look at the election results in the last presidential primary, Democratic primary held in West Virginia. And if my memory is correct, I believe, maybe wrong in this, that I won every county in West Virginia. And we won with a very strong victory. And the other thing that I would say to Joe Manchin is his state is one of the states in this country struggling the most. And I've spent time in West Virginia. This is a state like New Hampshire, hit hard by the opioid epidemic. It's a state where wages are very, very low. It's a state dominated by wealthy corporate interests. So I would say to Joe Manchin that maybe he should stop worrying about the needs of the working class in his state rather than protecting corporate interests.
Let me ask about another Joe, and that's Joe Biden. It just seems in the last couple of days it's getting a little personal between you and the former vice president, from Medicare to all to super PACs, which you just mentioned. And I'm wondering what this relationship is like, and is it getting a little more testy now on the campaign trail?
Well, I've known Joe for many years, and I consider Joe to be a friend. Our campaigns are about ideas, they're about values. If my memory is correct, Joe Biden once said, and I'm paraphrasing, is that you got to be careful about people who have super PACs and who they will end up being responsible for. And in this campaign, Joe is, I understand that has not done particularly well in getting a lot of donations from working class people. At this particular moment in this campaign, and I'm extraordinarily proud of this, we have received more donations than any candidate in the history of the United States of America at this point in an election. We have over 1 million Americans who have donated to our campaign, and the average donation is $16. These are working class people supporting a working class campaign. Joe has not had that result, and he is now forced to go to billionaires and multi-millionaires to get his funding through his super PAC. Second of all, the criticism about Medicare for all and how you pay for it. I would hope that Joe Biden explains to the American people how under his plan, which maintains a dysfunctional, wasteful, and cruel healthcare system, a system today which is costing us twice as much per person as do the people of any other industrialized country pay. We're spending almost $11,000 per person, double what they spend in Canada, and in Canada they somehow manage to provide quality care to all people. So what I want Joe to explain is under his plan, which maintains the profiteering of the drug companies who charge us the highest prices in the world for medicine, which maintains the role of private insurance companies at a time when the healthcare industry made $100 billion in profit last year, when 87 million people are uninsured or underinsured, and 500,000 people went bankrupt last year as a result of medical bills. I want Joe to explain to the American people, how much will the premiums go up? How much will co-payments go up? How many more people will go bankrupt because they cannot afford medical bills because they were diagnosed with cancer, heart disease, or some other illness? Now, what we have said over and over again is that when you eliminate, as our plan does, premiums, nobody in America will be paying any more premiums. And I define premiums as a tax to go to the insurance companies. That's gone. No more premiums. No more co-payments, which means that you can walk into the doctor's office when you get sick and not worry about how you're going to pay for that bill. No more deductibles, which means there will be no more out-of-pocket expenses. When you eliminate all of that, the result will be that the average American will pay substantially less for his or her health care costs than is currently the case. Now, what we have done in our campaign, because here's the truth, everybody knows this, that no proposal coming from a presidential candidate is going to be adopted word for word, line by line, by Congress. But we have done, I think, the right thing. We have presented a number of options, which I think make sense. So when we eliminate premiums and co-payments, what we say is that we will also eliminate, in terms of taxation, the first $29,000 a month. And one of the options out there is that after that, there will be a 4% income tax. Okay? And we have a payroll tax for large corporations, while we exempt that for small businesses. So we'll have more details about it. But I think it's unfair to say that we have not presented plans. We have presented options out there. And I'm comfortable with that. But I would also like, hopefully the media will ask Joe about how much more people will be paying at premiums. Here is the big debate. The big debate really is not about healthcare, because it is very hard to defend the current system, which is so dysfunctional and so cruel and so wasteful. The debate is, and I mean this sincerely, is at a time when we are the only major country on earth, we are the only one, not to guarantee healthcare to all people as a right. Do presidential candidates, does the Congress have the courage to stand up to the greed and corruption of the healthcare industry, which last year made $100 billion in profit? Some of you may recall that a couple of months ago, I went to Canada with a bunch of diabetics from the Midwest to purchase insulin. And we paid for the exact same product of insulin, 1/10 the price in Canada, 1/10 the price, as was paid here in the United States. Do members of Congress, do presidential candidates have the courage to stand up to that greed and to understand, by the way, we're dealing with this right now. The healthcare industry will be putting TV ads, radio ads, newspaper ads all over New Hampshire, all over Iowa, all over America. And I want the American people to understand who is paying for those ads. And the people who are paying for those ads made $100 billion in profit last year. People who are paying for those ads are CEOs who make, in some cases, many millions of dollars in compensation. That is what we are taking on. And I don't say for a moment that this is an easy fight. These people have unlimited amounts of money, and they lie, and they're going to distort what we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, the American people increasingly understand that healthcare, whether you are a wealthy person, whether you're poor, whether you're middle class, healthcare is a human right, not a privilege. And healthcare should be about guaranteeing healthcare to every man, woman, and child as a right, not seeing large corporations making billions of dollars a year in profit.
So, you know, I know it's good to see you again, and I'm glad you're covering more from the other side. You suggested you would not do 4 events per day as you recover from the hardship, but you have a very packed schedule in Iowa. Are you all concerned, any cases that set you back health-wise?
No. Needless to say, everybody knows that I had a heart procedure, 2 stents in my artery which was blocked. My understanding is that that procedure takes place about 1 million times a year in the United States. I left the hospital after 2.5 days. I am back on my feet. I am feeling great. And I want to thank the people of New Hampshire and people all over this country who sent us their well wishes and prayed for us. It means a lot to me and my family. But I'm feeling great, and I expect that at the end of the day, we will probably do more events here in New Hampshire than any other campaign. We intend to have a very vigorous campaign, which takes us all over the state.
Senator, on Medicare for All, yesterday Senator Warren, when asked that of course she would talk with you and consult with you about her plan that she's going to be releasing in the coming weeks about how she plans to pay for Medicare for All, what will you be looking for in her plan? And is there a possibility that if you do like her plan that you would incorporate it into your own?
As I just said, we have produced options. We have a plan that's out there. And all that I have said is what I think everybody knows to be true, is that no plan, we have focused on the need for health care for all as a human right and the need to save the average American substantial sums of money in his or her health care bill. And we have provided options which are available to everybody right there on our website, which would do both, health care for all, save the average American money. And I'm sure Senator Warren will work on her proposal. We'll have more details than ours, and we'll go forward.
Senator.
Question.
Yep. See it.
Your message to your constituents back home.
Well, it is one of great thanks. Obviously, I would not be where I am today in a strong campaign to become President of the United States without the support of the great state of the people, great state of Vermont, and the people of that state. So my love and affection is back home. And I will be back in Vermont as often as I can, but I have to say it will not be as often as I would like. But I just want to thank the people of our state for their strong support.
In response to your,
Yeah.
you have spoken about what you call voter suppression here in New Hampshire. Could
Yeah.
you elaborate on what
Yeah.
specifically you're referring
Yes,
to?
I will tell you exactly what I'm referring to. One of the goals of our campaign, and I think we are succeeding in doing that, and one of the advantages that the support of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will give us is the need to get more people, especially younger people and working class people, involved in the political process. And the very good news is that nationally and here in New Hampshire, young people, by and large, are progressive. So for every 3 young people who gets involved in the political process and votes, I think the studies indicate that 2 out of those 3 are progressive. Problem is that historically young people have not been as actively voting as older people. And I want that to change. I want younger people to know that they are the future of America. And if they're concerned about student debt, if they're concerned about racism or sexism or homophobia, if they are concerned, as I know they are, about climate change, they must get involved in the political process. Now, I understand that, and the governor of your state understands that. The difference between us is I want to make it easier for all people in our country to be able to vote, because we have the lowest voter turnout of almost any major country on earth. So I want more people to vote. Apparently, your governor thinks differently, and he is going to make it harder for young people to vote with what I would call a poll tax on young people. I think it's an outrage. I think it is designed to keep young people from participating in the political process because they are not supportive of the Republican agenda.
Is that just a clarification? Is that, how do you view the proposed residency requirements in New Hampshire as being different than the ones that exist in your home state of Vermont?
No, in our home state of Vermont, I had this issue when I was mayor of Burlington, and we fought that issue. And I think anybody who considers that state the state in which they are abiding, there are people who come, not just young people, come in and work for a couple of years. Okay? Do they have a right to vote in the state? Were they going to be impacted by policies? I believe that they did.
Senator
So your
Sanders.
reaction to Twitter ending political advertisements on its platform?
I have an ambivalent response to that. I don't like, the essential problem is that you have a very powerful private entity saying that you cannot, you're running for whatever you're running for, cannot advertise on Twitter. That concerns me very much. On the other hand, I am more than aware that there are so many lies and distortions, and we're worried about Russia and other nations intervening in elections, which is, I presume, what Twitter is trying to deal with. So it's a complicated issue, but what I will say is that the U.S. Congress has been woefully negligent in dealing with how we deal with incredibly powerful entities like Facebook and Twitter. And we cannot ignore those realities and the power of those entities, which are now controlled by private individuals. But here's the problem: is one guy who runs Twitter wakes up in the morning and says, "This is what I'm going to do." Wow, that's a lot of power for one person to have. So we need a lot more work on this. I guess we got to get.
Senator Sanders.
All right, thank you all very much.
Have a great day.
Thank you.